So good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today to this webinar number 5 of the series 2021-2022 that are organized by the Mediterranean Biodiversity Protection Community Project of the Interreg Mediterranean Program. My name is Jordi Juarez, and I am Project Officer at the CPMR Inter-Mediterranean Commission, and we are partners of this project. So today we are meeting under working group 2, which is called Sustainable Use of Natural Resources. And we will focus on the POSBEMED2 approach, project approach, for the management of Posidonia beaches. As you know, for this kind of webinars, we pick up a best practice to showcase. So today we will see the activities that were developed to educate stakeholders, to increase knowledge about Posidonia and raise awareness. But the project has been also working on nature-oriented strategies, action frameworks, and tools for the integrated management of Posidonia littoral zone in protected areas. But as I said before, we will focus on this best practice and not the whole project. So before we start, I kindly ask you to keep your microphone off and your camera as well. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to use the chat function and ask the questions. But we will have a dedicated session at the end of this webinar where you will be able to take the floor and ask as many questions as you want. So the meeting, just for your information, it will be in English, and it will be recorded as well. So that was some housekeeping reminders. So now I share with you the agenda. We have a very interesting agenda for today. I will start by introducing the MBPC project and the working group 2 main goals. Then we will move to the POSBEMED2 project, so the main achievements on Posidonia oceanica acceptance in the Mediterranean beaches. We will have peer feedback afterwards, and then we will move to the last part of this session, which is the feedback from the participants and some wrap-up and conclusions. So concretely speaking, for those who are not familiar with the project, this is the second phase of the Panacea, which is the previous project. And it's the umbrella project encompassing other thematic projects that we will see in the next slides. So the role of the project is mainly to create a strong community and make sure that the approaches, the tools, and all the results of these thematic projects can be easily integrated into policy making, and also to reduce pressures and impacts on biodiversity. So the Mediterranean Biodiversity Protection, or MBPC for short, is working basically under 3 working groups. We have working group 1, which is biodiversity protection and transboundary challenges. We have also working group 2, sustainable use of natural resources, under the one of today. And then we have also the working group 3, which is integrated ecosystem monitoring and management. So moving to working group 2, our aim is to identify, disseminate, and support the development of sustainable management approaches to promote participatory natural resource use at local, regional, and EU levels. So some of the topics covered, let's say, by this work and these thematic projects that are here in the screen include governance mechanism, participatory approach, biodiversity monitoring, awareness raising, management of protected areas, among many others. So we have all these thematic projects that are already finalized and that are now, and we have today with us the POSBEMED2 one. So those are 2 of the main outputs that have been developed within the community and were also built with the contribution of all the thematic projects. We have the EBM, the Ecosystem-Based Management Declaration, which is a commitment to make sure that any of our or your works or activities consider this EBM, Ecosystem-Based Management approach. It was also presented to the European institution some time ago. You can still sign it. We will put the link here in this chat today. We also have the Mediterranean Biodiversity Protection Knowledge Platform, which gathers many resources and others that will come very soon from the projects in an integrated way. You have some viewers, you have a lot of resources. We will also put the link here for you to have a look. We also, within the working group too, we made several other publications and we organized many other events in the past months and years. I will not go into detail now, but we include some webinars like the one we are doing today, the participation in several workshops, but also the production of some technical papers and policy papers. So just for you to know, the first one of the most relevant for this work package was the technical paper working group 2, and it's mainly covering the topic of participatory approaches towards the co-management of natural resources in coastal and marine areas. And we have some of the best practice coming from the thematic projects, but also from other regions. We have concerning the small-scale fisheries, we have wetlands, we have also blue economy, and many others. Each of the project has its own specific angle, so I welcome you to have a look to this technical fact sheet that we will also share it with you at the end. And now I'll give the floor to Luca Santa Rosa, which is the consultant for this working group 2, and we will moderate the session, and we'll start introducing also our next speakers, and that's all. So thank you very much for your participation and your attention.
Thank you, Jordi. Thank you to all the attending people. I explain you a bit I introduce the speakers and explain the structure and the aim, let's say, of the webinar. Because the aim of the webinar is not just to showcase a good project with good results and focus on specific best practices, but also to develop ideas for new steps for further developments in the future, in a project or whoever in the research domain, whatever. So now we will have Emmy Lundqvist from the Mediterranean office of IUCN. IUCN, for those that doesn't know, is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, is the biggest international institution dealing with conservation and protected areas. And in Malaga, there is the Mediterranean office. She will present us the POSBEMED2 project, that is a project funded and just ended, funded by Interreg Med program, led by Regione Sardinia, but IUCN Med was let's say, the technical coordinator, the scientific coordinator. Then we will have a focus on the best practice that we want to present today. That is all the activities carried out we are talking about how to manage Posidonia oceanica in beaches. Okay, this is the main, let's say, topic. On this topic, there will be a focus carried out by Stéphanie Houdin from South region, Region Sud of France. Focusing on how to engage the local stakeholders, how to increase the knowledge about Posidonia in the beaches, and how to raise awareness about how should be managed, let's say, in a sustainable way, a beach. And finally, we'll have a sort of a peer review, but just to input, just to feed other thoughts, not for this follow-up I was mentioning. The peer reviewer that kindly accepted our invitation is Sergio Cappucci from National Research Council of Italy. He works on such a topic, of course, so he will, let's say, provide a short feedback on the projects, and also will contribute with some experiences that this huge institution, Italian institution, is carrying out about management of Posidonia in beaches. But my task will be to try to keep all the speakers in the set time slots in order to allow you, the audience, you, those that are here to listen, to intervene, to contribute with your own ideas, with your own experiences on what can be done further in addition on what already presented today. Okay, so this is the structure and and finally in the next 24 hours we'll prepare a short report of the webinar, you exploiting some slides, but especially putting in some slides putting the main results like a wrap up, let's say, of the discussion. So each of you will receive by tomorrow also a summarized, let's say, minutes, or let's say a report of the discussion with these points for, let's say, food for brain, let's say, food for thoughts, food for future activities. I stop myself. I give the floor to Emmy. I ask her to share her screen and start with her presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Luca. I might ask Jordi or Lise, could you actually share the presentation? Is that possible for you?
Yes, let me try to share my screen, or if Liz.
I have it here actually. Oh, Lise was fast. There. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so thank you, Lise. So thank you, Jordi and Luca, and to the MBPC for this opportunity to discuss the main achievements of the POSBEMED2 project. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Emmy Lindqvist, and as Luca mentioned, I am from the IUCN Center for Mediterranean Cooperation, where I work as a Marine Program Assistant, and we were one of the project partners of the POSBEMED2 project. Next slide, please. So we were one of the project partners together with Region2 from France, CNR from Italy, and Aliaphysis in Cyprus, HSPN and the Region for Central Macedonia and Greece, Natura Iadera in Croatia, our lead partner, the Autonomous Region of Sardinia, as well as IUCN as technical coordinator of the project. And the POSBEMED2 project ran from the end of 2019 to just a few weeks ago, actually at the end of June. And it focused on the governance and management of Posidonia beach dune systems across the Mediterranean. POSBEMED2 was the second phase of the POSBEMED project, which ran from 2016 to 2018. And our work, the testing phase of the work, focused in 7 pilot sites across the Mediterranean, as you can see in the map. And the project focused primarily on creating a planning framework for promoting the sustainable management of Posidonia beach dune systems, evaluating management options and establishing mechanisms for their conservation, increasing awareness of both stakeholders and the general public, as well as providing better integration planning tools to be incorporated in management planning and coastal policies. Next slide, please. And in this project, we were lucky to be joined by a very wide variety of associated project partners from, as you can see, municipalities to tourism boards to protected area management bodies and beyond. And our associated partners were very active in participating and collaborating in the different project activities. So we're very grateful for their contributions. Next slide, please. So before moving forward, I wanted to highlight the 3 main challenges that the Mediterranean region and particularly Mediterranean coastlines face that have kind of provided a framework for the development of the POSBEMED2 project. The first of which is the significant pressure of tourism in the Mediterranean region, particularly in coastal areas. The second is coastal erosion, which I'm sure we're all aware that there are Mediterranean coastlines that have suffered significant erosion and loss of beach surface, in some cases, particularly in the recent decades. And the third challenge is the management of these areas, in many cases due to the pressures from the tourism sector. So Posidonia, as a marine plant, loses its leaves seasonally, and these leaves, together with materials such as rhizomes, are washed ashore where they mix with sand and sediments and form accumulations known as banquettes on the beaches, which you can see here on the picture on the right. And these banquettes are often viewed by tourists and beachgoers as a nuisance or an aesthetic problem on the beaches. And for that reason, in many cases, they are removed. And in fact, in the first phase of the project in POSBEMED, a survey was carried out in 5 EU Mediterranean countries, looking into the removal of Posidonia banquettes in Mediterranean beaches. And the survey found that in 83% of the surveyed areas, Posidonia banquettes were removed in some or all of the beaches on a regular basis, so yearly or even several times a year. And often the banquettes and the gathered material, which contained sand and sediments, ended up in landfills. And this is quite problematic, particularly for the coastal erosion aspect, because Posidonia banquettes have a wedge-like structure, which makes them provide natural infrastructures and act as coastal protectors that minimize the impacts of waves, particularly during heavy storms. And for that reason, they have a very important role in increasing the resilience of the coastline and Mediterranean coasts. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, our pilot actions were carried out in 7 pilot sites across the Mediterranean together with our project partners. And the activities in the pilot sites aim to study the past and current dynamics of the coastline and of the Posidonia beach dune system from the sea to the land. And the pilot actions included, for example, analyzing the historical evolution of the coastline and analyzing and evaluating the past and current impacts of machinery used, because in many cases it's heavy machinery that is used that has significant impacts on the beach dune system. Also, we estimated erosion, and some areas there was very, very significant erosion that had been noted in our pilot sites. We also analyzed the state of the Posidonia meadows and the coverage, as well as the dune system, and looked into possible alternatives for operational practices and returning banquettes in areas where, due to very high touristic pressure, the removal is deemed necessary. And in general, looking into reducing the impacts of visitors and beachgoers on the beach dune system as a whole. Next slide, please. So here you can see some photos from our pilot sites, which were very different actually amongst themselves. So we had some sites where banquettes had been removed for decades and decades, other areas where banquettes were hardly removed at all, some areas with very significant erosion in the dune system, and other areas with less damaged dune systems. We had some areas where there had been studies and actions going on for a long time, and others in not so long.
But what je développe un peu plus, mais je vais pas me prendre la tête pendant 120 ans si déjà ils sont.
Sorry, what they all had in common was that they were lacking a framework for implementing action plans for the conservation and recovery in many cases of the beach dune system. And in addition, the habitats were quite different. So as you can see, for example, in the top left, we have our pilot site in Estrenc in Mallorca, which is a very open system. And then on the bottom row in the middle, Sacarum Beach, it's quite a closed environment. So the starting points were quite different among the pilot sites, which made the pilot actions very, very interesting. Next slide, please. So with the results from the pilot actions gathered, we developed 7 action framework plans, so 1 for each pilot site, that aim to promote soft interventions in Posidonia beach dune systems. I think there's an animation here, so you can press that, Lise. Yes, and one more. Thank you. So the action framework plans aim to support the management bodies in implementing actions that support natural processes and create sediment balances, particularly in areas that had significant erosion, so negative sediment balances. One more, Lise, please. Thank you. So, of course, the actions included in the action framework plans depended very much on each pilot site. But in general, they were categorized into 3 groups, which included passive actions, so those that don't directly affect the beach dune system, but do promote its conservation and recovery. Active actions, which can be direct or indirect, and are interventions on the morphology and the vegetation of the beach dune system, always taking into account the criteria for minimal impact, as well as mixed actions, which are a combination of the 2. The actions were also planned in a timeline, so some of them were short-term actions in the next 3 to 5 years, and others planned more in the long term, so in the next 5 to 10 years or so, and all took into account the available resources, both economic and human, local legislation, and included activities for raising awareness and capacity building. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, the different options for management approaches are going to depend on the circumstances, characteristics, and conditions of a site, not only of our pilot sites, but of any site in general, as erosion is one of the main factors that will guide the management approaches and identify the most adequate approaches to use. So it will depend if it's a natural beach, a semi-natural, semi-urban, or urban beach, the degree of erosion that the area has suffered, in addition to factors such as pressures from tourism, local legislation or regulations, and the like. Next slide, please. However, in general, we identified 4 principal options for management approaches. Next click. Here we have 4, thank you. The first of which is no active intervention. So basically doing nothing and letting the system continue its natural processes. This, however, does include monitoring as well as some light management actions that could be the realignment of footpaths or maybe cleaning of litter. Next. The second includes limited interventions. So these are regenerative actions that mimic natural processes, such as increasing resilience through retrofitting banquettes or mitigating the impacts, for example, of dune trampling by visitors. Next. The third are interventions to maintain or hold the current shoreline. So these include reinstating natural processes, for example, sediment exchanges in the beach dune system, particularly in areas that have suffered from erosion, or the use of nature-based options such as Posidonia banquet retrofitting or seagrass and dune restoration. So again, taking into consideration this holistic approach from the land to the sea. And next, please. And a fourth management approach that was identified, however, not really implemented in the pilot sites as we focused on the first 3, is interventions to maintain realignment. So this includes withdrawal, relocation, or even abandonment of some areas due to protection status or protection designation, which aims to provide more space for natural buffers and recovery against natural hazards. And 2 more clicks, please. And all of these actions are accompanied by protocols. So protocols for temporary removal in areas where the removal is deemed necessary, as well as protocols for returning banquettes. So these can be banquettes removed during the season or even banquettes that were removed years or decades ago that have been stored on site and returned in an aim to promote the regeneration and restoration of the area. Next, please. 1 more. Thank you. So some of the challenges that we came across in the project was, for example, the availability of information, as there's still quite a large lack of information available regarding management practices across the Mediterranean in these areas. Some observations of very significant seagrass and dune degradation or beach erosion that required immediate action that were included already in the action framework plans, as well as elements such as increasing local awareness and its importance, introducing and following up on nature-based solution approaches, the reinforcement of regulatory frameworks, and providing decision support tools for management bodies. Next, please. So one of the main outputs, here you can do 2 more clicks, please. One of the main outputs of the project is a manual for conserving Mediterranean beaches with Posidonia and assessing the management actions, which focuses on the transfer of all of the results gathered and the lessons learned from the project beyond the partnership, so they can be implemented in other areas and used in other areas across the Mediterranean. So this manual outlines the steps to follow for creating an action plan or assessing the progress of management actions, including, for example, the planning stage, the actions, identification of actions, monitoring, and assessment. Next, please.
Forgive me, Amy, but you have still 2 minutes more.
Okay, perfect. So this manual gathers the results from the testing phase to provide a common methodology toolbox for protected areas and non-protected areas, including specifically improved management measures and protocols for evaluating and monitoring impacts to ultimately create a harmonized local strategy for protected areas with Posidonia beach dune systems. Next, please. So I also wanted to finally to highlight some of the capacity building activities that we've done, which have been very, very diverse, and in person, hybrid, and online due to some of the challenges we faced with COVID. We managed to bring together government institutions on different levels, for example, administrations, managers, also SMEs, NGOs, researchers. On the local level, on the regional level, we brought together the coastal managers. Also, we had capacity building for tourism sectors, and particularly in these events as well, our associated partners were very active in participating and contributing. And next, please. And this is the second to last slide. So I just wanted to highlight some of the awareness raising materials that we've produced, which these are only a few examples. We have much, much more. But we made beach information panels for our pilot sites. We were quite active on social media and on the project website to really reach audiences that way and highlight our work. We created several videos in different languages in different areas, which can all be found on the project's YouTube page. We also created t-shirts, and we had beach cleans with school trips, local events. One of our partners in Cyprus even created a puppet show. Next slide, please. And just to finalize, here are some of the other awareness raising materials that we've created. So brochures, and on the right hand side, top right, you can see a children's book that was made. The bottom right, we have a poster that was made in English and Greek, and all of our awareness raising material was translated to the different project languages. And one of the main outputs as well was the joint charter of commitments, which Stephanie will tell us more about now. But I just wanted to highlight that we also have a publication in the top left, which guides and provides the main elements for management bodies in navigating and committing to the joint charter. And the bottom right-hand side, you can see a screenshot of the platform that Stephanie will present that has a part for management bodies and administrations, as well as for the general public. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and this is all. I hope I didn't go too much over, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you so much, Amy, for the questions. We will put together feedbacks and questions in the last part of the webinar. Thanks for this exhaustive presentation of the project. Of course, there is the website, no, on the InterregMed platform, where if anyone want to go deeper, of course, can write to Amy or can go directly in the web. Now, Stephanie is showing us, is going to make a focus, no, on such activities with the feedbacks. Where we would like also to know which were the impacts, let's say the results, let's say on local communities, on beach users, of your activities. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
I think you're muted, Stephanie.
Sorry, I forgot to put to turn my microphone on. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Stéphanie Houdin from Région Sud. I'm a public servant and I work on the Sea and Coast Service. And actually, the Région Sud is the leader of the Work Package 5. And as Amy said, we coordinated the creation of a charter of commitment and a tool to diffuse it, which is a mobilization platform. So just to begin, as a memory, what are we talking about here? Amy explained it very well. Actually, it's about the project, the POSBEMED2 project is about changing the seaside tourism model, which means to stop selling Caribbean beaches with white sandy beaches. So it's about preserving a chance we have, which is our Posidonia ecosystem. So it's putting into lights our Mediterranean character. Posidonia is our heritage, whether on meadows or on banquet. And this is really a chance to adapt to climate change as well. So what did we do? So we worked on the creation of the Charter of Commitment because our ambition was around 3 challenges. The first one is to change people's perception. So that means, and Amy explained it, carry on awareness raising programs. We all did this type of actions. It's also about changing manager practices. So to change the practices, we need them to commit. And it's also about creating a collective move on the long run. It's a long run dynamic, not just for one time. So that means working on this Mediterranean identity. And so that means we thought we need a tool, a special tool to communicate, to be more visible, to really be in a moving process, not a static one. And it's also about telling stories about the Posidonia ecosystem and Posidonia banquet and the use of it. So for this, this is what the mobilization platform is all about. The mobilization, it's a good tool to engage people because you go on it and you sign really the charter. We'll see later on. It's also a way to act concretely. You choose commitments. You're not only signing a charter, but then you commit to do an action. And it's also a way to create a feeling of belonging. You belong to a Mediterranean community, a Posidonia-friendly community, and because you see what others are doing and you can testify of what you're doing. So who are the target publics of the Charter of Commitment and of the mobilization platform? So we decided to present it. We have 5 categories, let's say. The first one, the most important one is local authorities, which means decision makers, elected representatives, and beach managers. But also, maybe this is something new. We have economical actors like beach attendants, restaurants, and bars, because we need to have them with us on this dynamic to defend the preservation of banquets. And that's not an easy thing. Of course, NGOs and foundations and education actors like schools, universities. We also did actions towards students. And the last category of public is the individuals. So that means local residents, inhabitants, tourists, but also scientists who are working on a specific, natural resources preservation issues. For instance, also journalists who can also testify of the use of the banquet, professional athletes like divers or sailors, famous, and artists and cultural actors. So those are all the community we want to target with the Charter of Commitment. So here, this is how the Charter of Commitment look like on the mobilization platform. So we're going to go on it. I recorded a video to show you. So far, we have 523 signatories. So this Charter of Commitment, this mobilization platform, sorry, When you click on it, when you arrive on the site, which is actforposidonia.eu, you have different languages. So far, it's in French and in English online. We are working on other languages. And okay, you can sign straight if you know what Posidonia is all about. If you don't know, you say, okay, you have a part which is why to act. So what is Posidonia? You can go and discover different topics about the Posidonia banquet, the Posidonia meadow. And you also can each time try to learn more about this plant. Like here, you have more information. And you can download all the materials that Amy showed you. Once you know what Posidonia is all about, you say, okay, so how can I act? There are 3 ways of acting. The first here is to share values and common objectives. So you go and you have all the values and the objective of the charter. You can act also, everyone can act at its own level. So here is all the public that is targeted, and I showed you before. And if you click on one public, it explains what kind of commitment you can do. Then there's also another way to act, is to testify and show the example, but this is going to be done once you have signed the charter. I will show you later. And of course, you can mobilize around you and share the link and the QR code with everyone. And once you share what you've done here, there's a map of the Mediterranean where everyone who has signed and who wants to testify can write something, and you can show on the map where it is. So this is a little bit old. Now we have more testifying. So let's go together. So here is people who signed the charter. Yeah, you have the logos of all the institutions who signed. So let's go and sign it. So you see the window opens and you see all the values that you have to share before signing. You say, okay, I do agree. Then you say, okay, who am I? You choose who you are. For instance, here you say, okay, I'm an economic actor. I will commit to carry out my business in a way that will not harm Posidonia. I will share with my clients and suppliers all my charter of commitment. And then you sign. Okay, once you sign, you have to fill in your information, your surname, your name, email, what institution you belong to or not, if you're an individual, and you sign. So you receive this this message saying thank you and congratulations for your commitment, and you receive a mail on your mailbox because you entered your mail address saying this. So hello Maria, for instance, you have just signed the charter. Congratulations, thank you for your commitment. So it's important to say that you're part of the community of actors. This is this belonging feeling we want to create. And in order to go further, then you need to go back to the platform and create an account. Then, of course, you are invited to share the charter with those around you and to post your actions once you have done them. So the next step, let's say, once you receive this mail and you go back on the website. So here you are, you go to the My Account. Here are your information. You say, okay, what are the commitments I've been choosing? So here are the 2 commitments, for instance, you chose, and here are the general commitment that belong to everybody. And you can download the charter of commitment and the certificate of commitment. I will show them to you later on. You also can go and upload your action sheets, because once you chose your action, then you have these action sheets here to fill in and to explain more in detail what you've done, and especially for beach managers and elected representatives. And you can go back and testify about what you've done. So here is how the charter looks like. On the right part, this is a charter with our common vision. Together, we want Mediterranean beaches to be recognized for their unique, natural, and authentic character. So I won't read everything, but it's to show you the spirit of it. We want beaches that enhance our Mediterranean culture identity. We want to promote biodiversity and preserve our beaches for future generations. We also want beaches whose ecological features are respected in order to strengthen our coast resilience to climate change. So those are like the common vision. And then our common objectives, for instance, to give you an idea of how it looks like, is to promote, of course, the signing of the charter around us. It's to participate in the development of knowledge concerning the ecosystem of the beach. It's also, for instance, to raise awareness, inform, educate, to promote and disseminate best management practices for beaches, and so on. So this is the charter. And then once you sign, you have on the left the certificate of commitment. So this one is especially for municipalities and local authorities and beach managers. They signed it. And so, for instance, in France right now, we wrote a deliberation, like a type of deliberation that the municipalities can use, and they vote it in the municipal council. Then they will sign the certificate, and the president of the Région Sud is going to sign also the certificate, and then the municipality can show it on the city hall, for instance.
2 minutes more.
Okay, so that's okay. I'm almost done. So then those are the action sheet I show you. So if you're an individual, you can fill in the action sheet, but it's more like if you're a municipality, this is very important. This is a SMART action sheet, which means like the objective has to be specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, and in the time. And so you detail your action plan, and little by little, you can testify on the site what you've been doing. So this is important that people can see what has been done, and maybe that can give them an idea also of what to do. So this is it for me. So remember, the name of the mobilization platform is actforposidonia.eu, and I would be pleased to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It was important to go deeper, no, to understanding in practice how one of the several tools you developed in the project, how it works. So I think it gave us a more clearer idea on the kind of activities and expected results you carried out. Now we move to the peer reviewer. That is not someone bad against the project. We engaged Sergio as an expert on Posidonia in order to, as I said, now to give a contribution on what is to put in value, of course, but also what is still what can be developed, no, with further activities can be done in this, I would say, important and crucial challenge that is how to make appreciated, no, by tourists, a beach with banquet, with Posidonia banquet. Sergio Capucci, please introduce yourself and then share the screen. Thanks.
Good morning to everybody, and thank you very much for your invitation. I didn't have time to upload my presentation, so I will try to share my screen. Let's see if I manage to share it. I think now you can see.
Yes, we see your screen.
And this is the presentation.
Perfect.
Okay.
Put in show slideshow mode.
I hope it will work.
Perfect. It's perfect. Introduce yourself and then you can start.
Yes. it's Sergio Cappucci. I work in ENEA, that is the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development. I have worked before at the Ministry of Environment and in a different institution, so I have quite a lot of experience with Posidonia meadows and the residues of Posidonia, as I followed in the last 10-15 years also the legislation and the technologies to reuse the seagrass rock. I just would like to start from some past approaches that has been described in Italy since 2006 with the first circular of the Ministry of Environment that was basically based on 3 different options. So the conservation of Posidonia in situ, or its displacement, and the possibility also to transfer this material to the landfill. And one of the first projects was designed to reconstruct, to realize dune systems by using Posidonia oceanica. Because we immediately understood that one of the most sustainable use of Posidonia was its relocation along the shore, and dune is part of the beach system. Of course, perception and knowledge of the problem is a crucial issue, particularly if we want to manage in a sustainable way this natural resource, and trying to explain to stakeholders and the population, the tourists, that is important to preserve it, and if we want to try to explain a such complex ecological role of this material. I read quickly in the last few days the report of the project, and I really like it because it's rich of many activities and information. And I have found in this report many similarities, many activities that have been carried out in other research and management projects. I really appreciate that the problem is approached in the right way. Natural beaches with Posidonia that help to protect the coastal environment from erosion, that retain the sand and enhance the biodiversity. Those are just a few examples of the contents of the reports. Labels for information, the awareness, the effect of cartoon Muppets that help a lot to change the vision of stakeholders and tourists. What I really like, and I think is a really step forward to the state of the art, is this diagram, because I think it's really important, and explain that we have, as a community, technical and scientific community, now have to approach the new generation of management, trying to distinguish natural beaches from semi-natural beaches and urban beaches. We cannot, I think, my personal feeling is that we cannot continue to approach this problem without distinction from banquettes or seagrass rock or ephemeral deposits. We have now to distinguish the differences, and we have to try to improve, to implement solutions that can be sustainable from the environmental point of view and from the economical point of view. Otherwise, conflicts will continue and the environment will lost, because with the increasing problem of plastics and pollution in the sea, I believe that the displacements of seagrass deposits can be an opportunity to intercept wastes and to reduce the waste from the coastal environments. And I think that this scheme, this very simple, clear, and straightforward approach contribute a lot to this issue, to this important goal that we have to reach in the future. But just let me give you some impression, because, for example, in Italy, I've seen that you have described the opportunity, the management options that we have, but in the meantime, we also have some new regulation. The legislative framework in the last 2-3 years in Italy is exploded, let's say. And what I'm showing you in these slides is the content, is the scheme of the new circular of the Ministry of Environment that has been published in 2019. And as you can see on the left, there is a hierarchical approach of 7 different options, from the most sustainable to the less sustainable in the bottom. Basically is a list of possible options that I really suggest you to share with other partners and countries that suggest to maintain and do not move the seagrass rock, or reuse it or recycle it. And also there are indications also for the displacements for the management and displacement in the landfill. What have been done during the Bergain projects? The Bergain project has been coordinated by ISPRA, that is the National Agency for Environmental Protection in Italy, together with Enea and University of Tor Vergata. What you can see on the right is that we have tried to reinterpret all the management options, and we agreed about the necessity to indicate priority and secondary management options, trying to indicate as a priority use all the possible reuse that can be done along the shore, like dune reconstruction, ecological beaches, displacements or temporary displays of seagrass rock during the summer. All this kind of use are a priority for us, because they maintain the material along the shore, so they prevent the pollution, as we are able to intercept waste within the seagrass rock every time we move it. As a secondary option, we should think about the circular economy, the possibility to take out from the system the Posidonia, also for agriculture, to create compost or to generate other economies like cosmetics or material done with this natural resource. And another suggestion is this international publication that we did on Water Journal, that explain another diagram related to the ecological beach model that is similar to yours, but is less sophisticated. I really appreciate the much more detailed and differentiated approach that with POSBEMED2 you have proposed. But I think that this is a reference that you can add also in the manual, because it's been one of the first, let's say, approach that explain the beneficial management of the ecological beach model. I will continue with a bit of self-promotion. Of course, I know that I'm doing a bit of self-promotion, but I'm doing this because I think that picture explain much better than the words or other documentation. What you can see here is the evolution of the last 10 years of our technology. That is a patent. We started to create these pillows to move the Posidonia and clean the beaches during the summer in order to empty these canvases and have the possibility at the end of the summer to replace the leaves on the beaches and protect the beach from erosion during the winter. As you can see, the application has been implemented in several different projects in marine protected areas and not, during the Egadi project, during the Stratus project, where I met Luca. And we have found that these activities, those activities can improve a lot the perception and can be really appreciated by the stakeholders. You can see on the right the images of the demonstration we did on very highly touristic places in Lazio region, where the Posidonia is not so common, in very famous touristic villages. Just a last suggestion for future work to increase the knowledge, but also to work on perception of the problem and also to invest on economical development. I think the future for ecological beaches will be the sea immersion. Is an option that until now I think has been obstaculated by many legislative and complex framework, but in the future, at least in Italy, will be easier. And this is just a very schematic list of directive and guidelines and circular that I show you in the previous slides. Since last year, for example, in Italy, we have had a modification of our national environmental directive. For example, if we use the seagrass and we relocate it along the coast, basically, let's say we are not under the regime of the waste regulations. And now, recently, we had another important innovation. We have approved let's say, a law that we call it Save the Sea. It's all related to the waste management in the sea. But there is also an article entirely dedicated to the management of the seagrass. And I think it's really important because one of the options is that basically it can be possible to authorize the sea immersion. What you can see in this picture is a test, a patent of Enea that we deposited in 2014, and we had also a Green Coast Award for this experimentation that we did a few years ago. And I think it can provide an extra option that in the future will be very important, because in this way we will be able to close the entire cycle from the dunes onshore to the submerged beach offshore. I don't want to bother you with other slides, so I will interrupt my
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sergio, also because you accepted to play this role. And I think that you put a lot of issues, of contributions, let's say, in your slides. I have already some questions also to you, to the other speakers, but priority to the audience. So I open the floor to anyone from the audience that want to raise a question or to give any feedback. React on what we heard about this nice project, POSBEMED2, and also your activities, Sergio, within here. Please, the floor is to anyone want to raise the hand and intervene. If not, of course, as a good facilitator, I have some questions, for the speakers, but I would like to give the floor to other people. But if no one is ready for intervene, I would like to ask to Amy first about the manual that I read in the notes. Now you're going to publish, but the manual is targeted to whom? I imagine the beach managers, etc., but also other kind of stakeholders. Or please tell us for whom is conceived and is drafted this manual.
Thanks very much, Luca. Well, the manual, it does definitely have a point that is focused for beach managers and decision makers and municipalities, because, as I mentioned, it does outline some of the steps for example, implementing an action framework plan or creating one, identifying the actions, monitoring, evaluating the actions. But it does also, there's also a part that highlights the importance of awareness raising and the use of didactic tools. So there's a section in the manual that specifies or highlights and focuses specifically on different kinds of didactic tools using examples that we have produced in the project. So in the presentation, due to time, I only included a few, but we have done many different kinds of activities. So it has that part as well. So there's the technical part more of the manual, and then the didactic awareness raising part. It's a manual of approximately 80 pages, so it's very thorough and very long. And it will be available very shortly. Someone in the chat actually asked where they can find it. So it will be available on the project website very soon, very shortly.
Thank you, Amy. Since I do the same in my project, etc., to issue a manual, etc., the length of the manual can be a problem, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, as it is a manual, sorry, Luca, just to finish, as it is a manual that really brings together and summarizes a lot of the results of the project, as Stephanie mentioned, there was a very important awareness raising component of this project, of addressing the tourism sector and of really changing the attitudes and approaches, and seeing Posidonia and the beach dune system as a Mediterranean value and as an asset. And then on the other hand, we had the technical part of the project, which was more so focused on the pilot actions.
I know, do the same job, so we know that at the end of the project we must issue something, a document including the different parts, let's say the main outcomes of the project. I'm thinking about the targets. If you develop something for specific targets, a document of 80 pages can be too long, but it is a stupid thing.
Well, approximately.
Let's give the floor to Mr. Cipriani that raised a hand. Please, Mr. Cipriani. Luigi. Luigi, yes, please.
Just want to say hello to everybody, and thank you for these presentations. I was very privileged to participate to the final workshop of this project in Sardinia about a month ago, and so I know very well the partners, and I really congratulate for the effort. And I'm working a lot now at the regional government in Tuscany, also with other colleagues, to spread this work. So I will be very happy as soon as this manual is available, and also some slide. I will for sure ask to Amy or to Stephanie to use some of the slides to promote and to share this work, which I think is really important. And I would like to contribute to this awareness raising process. So really, thanks a lot, and let's keep this circle and this group alive for future projects as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Luigi. And exactly on what, since you were in touch, let's say, with the project, you understood, you felt some of the results of the project. Speaking about the raising awareness, education, etc. Well, which was the activities of the project that impressed you more, Luigi?
Well, I would say the whole way the project was built. First of all, to have all these different partners with different realities, different cultures, different approach, and I really can test that there was a very good vibration among all of them, and the fact that they all really believe in what they're doing. I saw a lot of good experience, but also a lot of energy, and I think it's great. I think it's a good example, and I really wish that we can keep on enlarging the network, maybe with the next programming of projects in Interreg Med or in Interreg Italy France or whatever with an Horizon experience. But I think the importance is to keep this group alive and working together.
Okay, so you liked the relationship within the group, so you hope that it will continue. Anyone else from the audience? If not, I have a question for Stephanie, because you presented us this platform, no, for engaging, for signing the chart, etc. Is everything very clear and everything is very useful for institutions and also maybe for economic operators, etc., etc. I see for the individuals, and which are these individuals? Now, as you said, residents, tourists, individual extra, etc. I see a bit more, let's say, heavy as a tool, no, for such individuals. And also, for example, the problem of the language, no, of the platform, the problem of updating the platform in different languages, etc., etc. So my question is, you can of course react on what I said, but also my question is if you develop something easier and tailored for the social media.
Social media. Oh, okay. Well, so far it's an experimental tool. I mean, so we created this tool trying to put together, and that was the challenge because it was not easy to make understand what we wanted to do. So the idea was really to have with us these citizens, and their role actually in the process is to show that it's not such a big deal to accept Posidonia banquets on the beach. So there are, let's say, the citizens, they are the special thing that help us to create the dynamic. So mainly, now, you see we have 525 signatories, and many of them are citizens, actually. So it works pretty well for citizens because we chose commitments that are simple.
Sorry, Stephanie, these 500 individuals are from the same destination?
The what? I didn't understand. Sorry.
These 500 people that signed the charter are from one destination or from several?
They are from several destinations. They are mainly French because we started in France, but they are Greek, they are Italian, and they are Spanish, they are Croatian. So it's individuals from all over the Mediterranean.
This is fantastic, but they are not so. They are not a critical mass, let's say, at
sure, sure. But so I do agree. So this is the thing is so far it's just the beginning, and they should help to convince the decision makers to act and to commit and to change their practices. That's the spirit of it. For the decision makers, the tool is a tool to diffuse the charter, but it does not prevent us then it's necessary that we keep on support the decision makers. We have to accompany them, to be with them for this signature, and then to fill in the action plan. It's not like if, you know, decision makers, they will go to the platform, they will sign, and that's it. It's not the point. It's the beginning. So the tool is really a prototype tool. It can be improved, that's for sure. And I'm really willing to see how we can improve it through our Mediterranean biodiversity protection community. That's the point too. Like it's a test. It's a prototype. We want to see if it creates a dynamic. Maybe there are some things missing, probably, and how to improve the process, make more people signed. But the issue is to make more decision makers signed, definitely.
Okay, I repeat my question to you and to Emmy maybe. Did the project develop specific activities for individuals, meaning tourists, beach users using social media channels?
Yes, on the platform, you have you know, this area where you click and you share the platform on your social media. So that means LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. So this exists to share the platform in your network, okay? And so there are specific actions that beach users are doing, which are like, for instance, you take a picture of you lying on your blanket. It's no big deal, you will say. You see, like it's typical an action that an individual can do and does not have a lot of sense for, let's say, a decision maker, but for an individual, it shows that you accept the blanket, you take this picture, you post it on the platform, but also on the site, like on your social network, like Instagram, and you show that you like blanket.
Okay.
I could also just continue a little bit on what Stephanie said, is that specifically we've actually launched also a social media campaign that has been coordinated by IUCN. Specifically, one of the target groups of the social media campaign is the individual and the individual beach users, excuse me, taking advantage and linking to the different target audiences that have been identified in the charter itself. So that's a very tangible thing that we have done on social media. And actually the campaign has been very, very successful. So we're hoping that in the next near future, then we're going to see all of this movement transferred to the platform.
Okay, so beyond the end of the project, this charter and this platform will survive, let's say, and will be managed by whom?
Definitely. So far, this is what we are working on, because, you know, the project just finished, I mean, the end of June.
The money ended.
So I can talk about Région Sud. What Région Sud is willing to do is to go on spreading this action. We are we will work like on a kind of a label, plage de caractère en Méditerranée, which is the French word for it. And we will do different events to promote the charter and to make it signed. So this is just the beginning. So we have the entire 22-23 year to develop the tool and to communicate more about Mediterranean Posidonia beaches.
This will be done at France level or at the Mediterranean level, your work?
This will be done at the Région Sud level, plus the Mediterranean Frenchy coast level. Because we're working with the interméditerranéenne, la direction interméditerranéenne, it's the state offices, you know, decentralized state offices around the Mediterranean.
With the other French Mediterranean regions.
Yeah. So
Corsica and the third one,
so this Posidonia banquet, the charter, let's say, it's going to be one of the action that is implemented into the marine spatial planning tool of the French Mediterranean coast, which is strategic document for the Mediterranean French facade. And there's a special action sheet that the Région Sud is leading. We are going to implement the Charter of Commitment in it. We're going to do a big event. And so it's in partnership with the state. We will spread it around all the Mediterranean French coast.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's clear.
I don't see hands raised in the audience, so I move to another question to Sergio this time. Sergio, I appreciated a lot by the fact that you following the POSBEMED approach. No, you underlined the need from technical point of view of approaching in a different ways different beaches. No, so the problem is composed of different aspects, and you have different situations. My question is, we understood that the ideal way, the ideal solution now for Posidonia banquets on the beach is to keep them in a back, let's say, of the beach, and then to put them back, after the end of the tourism season. But when you don't have this possibility, where you, in the cases you have little beaches, I live in Sardinia. In Sardinia, you have big beaches, but also little beaches, so plenty of Posidonia. So when you don't have this case, I mean, space where to store the Posidonia and then to put back at the end of the tourism season. Among the different options, so what do you see as the better one? Because, for example, remove the Posidonia from the beach and put in a, I don't know, in a big building far from the beach is costly, for example. So yes, that you understood the question. Where we are not in the ideal situation, what is the best to do?
Yes, I think I have understood the question, and it's very difficult to give an answer. And I think this is the reason why in many countries, worldwide actually, we have a lot of rules, regulations that indicate that a solution should be found specifically, is site specific, case by case. It's very difficult to give a standard. Of course, I have to add an extra information. I feel that I have a conflict of interest because as a researcher and as I have also deposited a patent. So of course, I think that the idea I've got is one of the best one. In what I mean is that awareness and perception are really, really important. But when you don't have space, one of the best solutions is to shift and change the furniture, the outdoor furniture. Because when the touristic season arrives, when you have May, June, and all the tourists start to, the invasion, start to go to the beaches, and you have a little space, the best option is to give them the opportunity to go on rocky beaches, to increase the accommodation space. And the second option is to change the standard furniture by using pillows, by using seats or other kind of furniture, as I show you in my third slides, that can support tourism. In this way, we have found that perception change. Tourists are more keen to accept the presence of Posidonia residues, and at the end of the season, you can put it back on shore. I completely agree that there are places, natural reserve, natural parks, natural beaches where we should protect the banquettes. We cannot move, you know, very easily all kind of banquettes, all kind of seagrass rock. But this option to move it twice a year, at the beginning and at the end of the season, is a huge opportunity to remove waste that otherwise are taken back to the sea from during the storms, from waves, from currents. Is a huge opportunity. Was not the same 20 years ago when I started to work with bioflows, with hydrodynamics, with seagrass into the lagoons or on submerged beaches. The amount of waste was not so high. So I really see an environmental benefit also in addition to the social and economical benefit. And the last point is that when the amount of seagrass is huge, basically, and you have extra material after the outdoor furniture or the dune reconstructions, the sea immersion can also be an important opportunity. Because if you use natural material, and now I don't want to explain details of the patents, but if you use natural materials, this sea immersion can provide many ecological benefits and can also be the substrate for seagrass
future meadows
restoration and reimplantation, yes, on the seabed. So we open new horizons, for example, for carbon sink and new markets on CO2 sequestration, carbon sequestration.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sergio. You demonstrated another time that there is not a simple solution, let's say, for complex problems. So there is a range of different, we have a mix of different tools to be used.
But this is why my little suggestion is that you have a wonderful report, but for example, for the Italian cases, you have descriptions of different regions and different options in Puglia, Tuscany, Sardinia. I think you should refer to the very last 2-3 regulations that we had at national level in order to have an updated starting point, an updated description of the options.
Okay, thank you so much. In the chat, I see a question from Sonsoles, I guess to Emmy, you know, to the partner. Sonsoles, do you want to open the floor, to keep the floor, to open the mic and speak, or I read your question?
Yes, thank you, Luca. No, basically it was to follow on this this idea raised by Stephanie on trying to empower this Mediterranean identity. But knowing that Mediterranean countries are so different somehow, I understand that the experience in the different pilot sites were also quite varied. So I just wondered on these potential ideas for future actions, if you identified any particular regions or countries that really need to know about the value of Posidonia and to promote these solutions among them. Thank you. Amy or Stephanie, any? I mean, I heard about Italy, I heard about France, but maybe you have other experiences from other countries to share as well? Thanks.
Well, I can take this one. First, just a clarification, the IUCN was not the lead partner. That was the region of Autonomous Region of Sardinia. We were the technical coordinator. But it's very true that even in our pilot sites, we saw great differences. So for example, in the Balearic Islands in Mallorca, where we had one of our pilot sites, there both regarding legislation and public awareness regarding Posidonia meadows, banquettes, and the beach dune system is much further along than, for example, areas such as Greece where there's still quite a bit of work to do. And in our area, for example, in Croatia, in our pilot site, there was very heavy pushback from, well, if you can consider it pushback, pressures from the local concessionaires and the local small businesses that work in the beach area, and also from the tourist goers to remove the Posidonia banquettes. And this is really where the importance of awareness raising and all of the awareness raising activities come into play. Because, for example, we noticed in the region of Central Macedonia, where these kinds of management actions are really in the very, very beginning stages of the process. And there they had an extremely successful public awareness raising, I don't know if you could call it a campaign, but a series of activities with local stakeholders and local communities, where they received a lot of support for implementing these kinds of actions and preserving Mediterranean natural beaches. So there, I don't know if I answered your question, Sonsoles. Stephanie, if you would like to add anything, and I saw we have some of our project partners on the line, so if anybody would like to add anything, please feel free.
Yeah, just to add a point, I think it's about public awareness thing to really rebuild this pride of being Mediterranean. I'm not sure you have this identity more in one place than another, but what makes the difference is the law and the policy rules. For instance, in France, it's very strong and it's getting stronger and stronger. So we are very lucky because we have the state with us, helping us to change the mentality. So let's say it's a couple. It's not only, this Mediterranean identity, it's also the law that is pushing. And you need both to really change the perception, I think.
And in fact, that was direct feedback we received from many of the managers, from the beach managers, that it's important to have this backing of legislation or regulatory frameworks to support the implementation of these actions.
And so I think the next part to answer your questions, Sonsoles, is also to go on. Maybe this is a thing we need to work together. It's to go on to have testimonials of what some people are doing, some beach managers are doing, and to go on showing that it's possible in some cases, depending on if you have an urban area, a very natural one or mixed, and to see always like good examples and what can be done. It's not black or white. There's a lot of shade of grays. And this is where the answer is, I think, to show all those grays that we can implement together and do like best practices exchange and things like that.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Stephanie. I see the watch. I guess that if there is no one else new speaker wanted to ask or to contribute in something, we can close this meeting with final operational words from Jordi.
Thank you very much. So yes, we have seen the important role of Posidonia when it comes to coastal erosion prevention, and it becomes really essential to improve the management of Posidonia beaches, particularly with the tourist use of them, so semi-natural and urban. We saw the difference. So, and also work on better strategies and raise awareness. That's one of the main points. And we already saw that there is always room for improvement. But Stephanie presented a very useful platform that targets several stakeholders, including beach users, and it can be a support to this communication and to give visibility to the Posidonia. We have already, as you said, more than 500 signatories, and this is like a good starting point to reach more people and to organizations, and also to achieve our shared goal, which is like protect our beaches, let's say. So that was some words to recap. And now, well, we will share the satisfaction survey very soon, as well as the presentation. Some of you asked for them in the chat, so we will share it, including the report. So everything will be shared very soon, tomorrow or the day after. And then just for you to let you know that we will have a next webinar in fall 2022, when we will showcase some of the results from MPA Engage, MPA Adapt, and MPA networks to strengthen the collaboration between MPAs, but also climate change adaptation. I think that was all for today. So I really appreciate your participation, and I hope to see you soon in our upcoming webinar. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to Sergio.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.